Hey y'all, it's Brittany and welcome back to another installment of Snapchat Skincare, also known as Clean Skin Dirty Deeds. This week we are talking all about Miss Elisa McNabney, and y'all, this woman just woke up every day of her life and just chose violence. If you want to hear what I'm talking about, what I mean when I say that, go ahead and grab your skincare. We're hopping into a night routine. Take a seat, grab a glass of wine, whatever you need to unwind, and stay tuned. All right, really quick, thank you to everyone who has already subscribed to my channel. I do appreciate the love, the consistency of y'all. Stay in those comments, keep the conversations going. For those of you who are just finding my channel, welcome sis, welcome sir. Make sure you subscribe. You're not gonna wanna miss anything that I have coming your way. Also, make sure you hit that notification bell so that you get notified when I post new content. Also, make sure you like the video and hop in those comments because engagement is key to helping me grow. I really appreciate y'all. Now let's get into the story. Now, Elisa McNabney was originally born Laren Renee Sims Jordan, and she was born on January 3rd of 1967 in Massachusetts. She eventually moved to Brooksville, Florida, though, when her father opened up a business with his brothers, I believe. Now, her family was very socially prominent, politically prominent, which comes along with being a successful businessman in these types of areas. Now, Elisa herself was very, very smart. They said that she was very outgoing as well. But with all these amazing things that Elisa had going for herself, she still chose to hang out with the wrong crowd, unfortunately. And that led to her eventually dropping out of high school in her senior year. When she dropped out of high school, she ended up getting married and getting pregnant with her first child, which was her daughter, Haley. But that marriage didn't last. So after having her daughter Haley and being divorced, she had another child, her son, with another man whose relationship didn't last with her either. But a big part of her issue with her relationships and just relationships with people in general is that nothing felt genuine. Everything was a story and it just never rang true. It never felt like it was the truth that she was telling you, which can definitely cause problems in personal relationships, especially relationships with a significant other. Laren/Elisa also had a bad streak. She started shoplifting just for fun. Again, every day she woke up and just chose violence. You come from a great family. Your family is not struggling for money at all, but you still have the urge to shoplift. And she got caught shoplifting a $5 hair color kit, a L'Oreal hair color kit from Woolworths. Back in the day, Woolworths was a thing, but she got caught and she was arrested for shoplifting a hair color kit. And it didn't get any better. She kept getting in trouble with the law. Eventually, she lost custody of her son. They let her keep custody of her daughter, who was older, but she lost custody of her son. But that didn't slow her down from doing things that she had no business doing. She ended up going to jail a number of times for stealing, for fraud, and for violating probation that she was put on a number of different times. And her last go round while she was on probation, she ended up stealing her boss's credit card and using it illegally and then being charged with credit card fraud. Before police could arrest her for that, she decided that she was gonna cut off her ankle monitor that she was wearing for probation and she was gonna hit the road and go on the run. So she grabbed her daughter and off they went. And they landed in Las Vegas, Nevada. Elisa had gone on the run, and while she was on the run, while she was running into all these issues, she had changed her name to 38 different names. And by the time she met her soon-to-be husband, she landed on the name Elisa Redelsberger. Now, Elisa met Larry McNabney in 1995 when she had applied to an open position that he had in his law office in Sacramento. He was looking for an office manager at the time, and she applied for that position and ended up being hired. Now, Larry was a well-known accidental injury attorney in Sacramento, and at the time he was living with his long-term girlfriend and her children. But he and Elisa really hit it off and started dating. And eventually, within a few days, the couple moved into his place in a gated community in Stockton. Again, he was still living with his girlfriend and her children at his home in Reno. But eventually, in 1996, the two would get married and Elisa would become Larry's 5th wife. Now, they ended up opening up multiple practice locations, and they even had a business jet. They lived again in a beautiful gated community, so they were living the life. Now, Elisa again brought her daughter Haley with her, and Haley actually ended up working at the law office as well and lived together with Larry and Elisa. And they both also shared a love of horses, and they would later get into show horses, quarter horses, but that was a love that they had as well that really drew them together. But Larry did not come without his own issues, his own flaws. He had a very troubled background upbringing as well. Larry's father was an alcoholic, a very mean, abusive alcoholic. Eventually, his parents did divorce. His mother got to the point where she had had enough and divorced Larry's father. And when that happened, Larry's father couldn't take it, and he committed suicide. Not only did Larry's father commit suicide, but his brother did as well. His brother purposely overdosed on drugs and committed suicide as well. So Larry comes from a very troubled past, and like his father, he ended up being an alcoholic and also an avid drug user as well. And by all accounts, he could get really mean, really nasty, and really angry when he was under the influence of either. It got so bad that out of his 5 wives, at least 2 of them had restraining orders against him. Now, to go along with this troubled past that Larry had, he had also joined a cult for a short time when he lived in Washington. It was said that this cult was really actually a reprieve for him. He stopped drinking, he stopped using drugs, and he started to really dig into self-care and wellness, those types of things. And he really took care of himself. He worked as a carpenter, so he kind of threw the law practice away, the stressful lawyer life. And he was happy and content being a carpenter in this cult. But unfortunately, his mom got sick. And when his mom got sick, he decided that he was going to leave the cult to get her affairs in order. He had issues with his mom's new husband, and he did some legal battling with the new husband after his mom had passed over her belongings, her estate. So he left the cult for those reasons. And eventually he just returned to practicing law. Now, the couple ran into a little bit of legal trouble when Elisa was caught by the Nevada State Bar and by the Nevada Supreme Court after they investigated the law practice that Elisa had embezzled over $74,000 from client funds. Now, Larry did end up taking the blame on behalf of Elisa, but she was still barred from working in any law office in the state of Nevada. And of course, there were repercussions for Larry as well, but he ended up staying with her anyway, and they continued to live together as a married couple and took their law practice out of Nevada and moved to California. Now, in California, she was allowed to work there. She was not barred in the state of California, so she returned to work as the office manager of his law firm. Now, Larry's drinking unfortunately became more and more of a problem. Larry wanted less to do with actually running the law firm, and he rather just wanted to collect the check, play golf, and drink all day. That's what he wanted to do. So Elisa, being the alpha female that she is, basically took over his law firm and ran it as her own and let him kind of do what he wants. Friends would say that they would see these instances where Larry would fall down drunk, and Elisa was so upset. She would just say, you know, I wish he would just die. He should just go away and die because he's so worthless. He's a useless drunk. And she just wanted the business. So she would even make sure that he got drunk enough to where he couldn't come to work. So again, she's back to choosing just violence every day. She would, you know, force feed and give him as much alcohol as he requested, no matter how early it was, so that he would be down and out and not be able to come to work, and she could run the law office however she saw fit, which was usually embezzling client funds or funds from the actual law firm itself as well. But eventually Elisa decided that she was just going to fire everybody who didn't like her, who didn't follow her lead, who was not on her side, and instead she hired those who would be her minions. And she hired specifically a woman by the name of Sarah Dutra, And at the time when she was first hired, she was a 19-year-old college student, but she was someone that Elisa really liked and could take under her wing. Now, Sarah was said to have been this very smart, very confident, self-assured young woman. They meshed well, her and Elisa, because she was very strong, very sure about what to do in any situation, whereas Elisa kind of was a very emotional type of person, and she reacted with her feelings and emotions, so she would break down when things were tough. So Sarah was really there to help her get through things. But they worked well in the office and also outside of the office. Their relationship grew, and at first it seemed like they were best friends. Now, why this middle-aged woman at this point was friends with a 19-year-old young college student is baffling to me, because I feel like those two people have nothing in common, but they worked well together. Elisa would buy Sarah clothes, cars, take her on trips, give her money. So, I mean, it was a win-win for Sarah. And for Elisa, she felt like she got the minion that she needed. Now, while they were supposed to be at the office running the business, they would go out shopping every day. Once they got Larry drunk enough to stay home, they would go shopping every day with the client's money a lot of the times. And there was also a point where Larry said that he caught them having sex in his home, in his space. And it was at that point when he gave Elisa an ultimatum of basically, it's Sarah or it's me, you choose. So what does Elisa do? She chooses violence yet again. Now, also by this time, Sarah and Elisa have drained the business accounts, drained Larry's personal accounts, drained the client funds as well. So there is no money left other than probably insurance money. On September 10th, 2001, Larry and Elisa went to Industry City, California for a horse show. They, at this point, have been showing quarter horses and making a little bit of money and a name for themselves in that realm. So they were going to a horse show, and all was fine and well until Sarah showed up. Now, Larry was not happy about this whatsoever, and he made that very clear to Elisa. She didn't care. She invited Sarah to dinner with them, which did not go well. And they definitely made a scene in the restaurant. Yelling, flicking each other off, saying the same words, didn't matter. And of course, Larry was extremely drunk at this point, so he just decided to go to his room and kind of be done. Keeping in mind that they also had a trainer there with them, their horse trainer, Greg. He had a room right across from the McNabneys. So that very next morning on 9/11, Greg said that he saw Elisa out walking the dog early in the morning, and she stopped him and said, you know, you won't be seeing Larry anymore. We had a really bad argument last night, and he was so mad that he left and he went back to Washington to join the cult. He said he was done with law, he's done with horses, he wants no part of any of this. He just wants to go back and join the cult. Greg didn't buy any of it. Greg didn't understand any of it. It just didn't seem right. Now, Elisa's daughter also questioned her as well. She wanted to know, you know, where Larry was. Now, she didn't really like Larry because, again, he was a very mean drunk, and she claimed that he was abusive to her mother, which very well may have been the case, since it seemed that he had a track record with his previous wives as well. But she said that she called her mother and asked, you know, where's Larry? And she pretty much told her daughter the same thing. He went back to Washington. We're getting a divorce. He's gonna be gone. We'll never see him again. Now, the story that she told everyone else, both her and Sarah, just varied. They told some people that he went to rehab. Some people were told that he was just traveling on business. So the story varied when you talk to other people outside of Greg and her daughter Haley. Now, there was one employee that just was not buying it, and that was Ginger Miller. Now, Ginger Miller said she had never really met him in person, but it didn't make sense what was being said. It just didn't feel right. So she wanted to notify the police that he was missing and formally reported him that way. Now, when police went to investigate, they found that in the hotel room, he left behind his wallet, he left behind his Rolex, and he had a diamond ring that he had as well, and some other jewelry. All of that was left behind, which didn't make any sense. Now, Greg also tells investigators that he remembered one instance when Elisa came up to him and said, hey, I got a question for you. Do you know if horse tranquilizers kill humans? he tried to clarify and say, do you mean like, will it kill a horse if you give it too much? And she said, no, I meant humans, people. He found it very strange, but he told her, I'm not the one to ask. I wouldn't know. I only deal with horses. But he found it, again, very strange of a question. Now, on February 5th of 2002, a body was found in a vineyard near Stockton, California. Now, when police found this body, it was partially buried, but it appeared that it had been preserved because it didn't seem like it was a very decomposed body. So they assumed that it had probably been refrigerated in some way or frozen. Now the body is examined and it is later identified to be the body of Larry McNabney, and there appeared to be no apparent cause of death. There were no wounds, no bruises, nothing to indicate how Larry died. But when they get the toxicology report back, it shows very high levels, fatal levels of a horse tranquilizer. Now, police also find out that no one has seen his wife, Elisa, either. So they're worried that she could also be a victim as well. So they really want to find Elisa. Now, at this point, she had not been seen probably for at least a month by anyone that knew her. Also, around this time, as everybody's being discovered, a client comes forward to the police and says, hey, I recently found out that my settlement check that Larry McNabney's office had gotten for me had been cashed, but I have not seen any money from it. I have tried to reach out to Elisa, who's the office manager and manages the settlement funds, and I can never get a hold of her. I keep getting the runaround, and I need to know what's going on. She goes on to say that she had finally gotten in contact with Elisa, and Elisa had agreed to meet with her at the law office on a particular day. When this client showed up, Elisa did not. But Elisa left a voicemail telling this client, oh, sorry, I locked myself out. I'm gonna get an extra key and I'll be back to the office. If you're not at the office, I'll come directly to your house and deliver the funds to you. She never showed up, and this client never got her money. So she said that she called her again and told her, I don't know what's going on, but I know that Larry wouldn't be handling my money this way if he were still managing the funds. And I don't know what you did to him. You probably killed him, but even if you didn't, y'all are going down. And at that point, she never heard from Elisa again. Now, also in the months before Elisa went missing, Sarah moved into Larry and Elisa's house. And not only that, they started to give away his expensive items, give away his ostrich cowboy boots, very personal, expensive things. They were giving it away for free, or they were selling it off and liquidating his assets. She then decided that she was going to take a trailer of everything that she wanted, about $100,000 worth of items, and she filled the trailer. It was a horse trailer that she was supposedly shipping to a location for a horse show, but it was filled with $100,000 worth of valuable items that she wanted to keep. Unfortunately for her, this client that called the police tipped them off, and police were now on to Elisa and whatever she was doing. But she also knew from this client's threat that the police probably knew what was going on too. So they both got tipped off at the same time from the same client. So as police seized this trailer full of goods, Elisa grabbed her daughter Haley again, hopped in her Jaguar, and $300 in her pocket, they run off and they head back to Florida. Now, when police run Elisa McNabney through the database, they finally figure out that this person does not actually exist. And that's when they realize they're dealing with Laren Sims Jordan. Now, police also find out that there has been financial investigations going on for both Elisa and Sarah and their embezzlement of over $500,000 of client funds. Now, police really want to talk to Sarah, and they approach her as if she's a quote-unquote witness, although they know that most likely she has something to do with whatever is happening here. But of course, she denies any involvement whatsoever in whatever has happened to Larry McNabney. So the cops are aware of the car that Elisa is driving. They're aware of her criminal record and her fraud and all of that, but they put out an APB for her red Jaguar. And funny enough, her car got pulled over while this APB was out on her vehicle, but instead of her car being run and that being discovered, Elisa was able to talk her way out of a ticket and getting her license plate run by this police officer. She was very charming and charismatic and was able to get out of it. And they continued on their way and they ended up in Destin, Florida. Now in Destin, Elisa got a job at a steakhouse, and she kind of cozied herself up to some lawyers that would frequent the steakhouse and worked her way into a job there. But when it came time for her to, you know, fill out the employee paperwork, her tax forms, they could not get her to fill out her tax forms. She was also going by another name of Shane Ivoroni. She wouldn't fill out the forms. So they finally ran her name in the Social Security database, and there was no such person as Shane Ivoroni whatsoever. So when these attorneys discovered this, they immediately report her and her car tags, because there's no other way to really identify who this person really is, but the tags of her red Jaguar, to the police. This is when the police find out where Elisa is. Now, once all this starts to happen, Elisa leaves work early one day and says, oh, I'll be back. I just need to go get some Botox done or something she said she needed to do on her hour lunch break. She said she'd be back. Sis never returned. Now, how she was caught by the police is kind of murky for me. In some instances, it said that they were staying at her daughter Haley's friend's house, and someone from that household called the police for the reward money. But I also heard in an interview from her daughter herself that she was worried about her mom's mental health and her suicidal thoughts that she may have been having. So she called the authorities to come get her mom. So two different perspectives of how she was actually taken into custody. But either way, sis got arrested. And when she gets arrested, she spills the tea. Elisa said while they were at Industry City's show, she went into the trainer Greg's bag, his horse medical bag, and got the horse tranquilizer out of it. She was worried about using it, and she was having second thoughts, and she was questioning it to Sarah, you know, I don't know how to use this. Should we do this? And Sarah was basically pushing her, egging her on to do it. And when she said she didn't know how to do it, Sarah said, put it in the Visine bottle. So that's what they did. They put it in his Visine bottle. And then when he went to sleep, in a heavy sleep, they put some in his mouth. Sarah put some in his mouth, according to Elisa, and he was out. They then rented a wheelchair and rolled him out to the truck. And their plan was to drive to Yosemite State Park. And when they got to Yosemite, they were going to dig a hole, bury him. He was still alive this whole time. He was talking to them. He was telling them they're not going to get away with it. He was asking for water. He was having conversations with these people that were trying to get rid of him. And they were basically just waiting for him to die. So then again, Elisa starts having second thoughts, and she says, let's just go home. So they take him back home, put him in the bed, and basically wait to see what's going to happen. Is he going to get better? Is he going to die from the horse tranquilizer? They wait. And while this was happening, he one time escaped out of the house, naked, outside, running, and they eventually got him back into the house, telling him, oh, don't worry about it, just go to sleep, just rest, you'll be fine. But the next morning, Larry McNabney was dead. And basically after this happened, Sarah kind of took the reins. She told Elisa what they needed to do, which was take the sheet that he was in, wrap it in duct tape, and basically put him in the refrigerator that they had in the garage to preserve him until they figured out what to do. And then they duct taped the fridge to make sure that it never opened. After they did this, Elisa headed back to the horse show that they were supposed to be at, and everyone was expecting them to still be there. Now, after she went back to the horse show, she called Sarah and asked her to bring some things and come back to the horse show as well. But before Sarah left the house, she went into the garage just to check on their, handiwork. She saw that the refrigerator had popped open. So what did she do? She taped it back closed to make sure it was secure this time. And then she left and went back to the horse show. Now, after all this happened, they lived in this house together for about 4 months with Larry in the fridge. So eventually they come up with this plan, and they decided they're gonna bury him in a desert near Las Vegas. Why? Because Larry loves Las Vegas. And when they get to the hotel in Vegas, they have him in the trunk, and they pull up to this hotel. The valet says, can I get your bags out of the trunk? Can you open the trunk? They panic and they leave because they don't want anyone to find out what's in their trunk. So after that, they say, well, we'll bury him in a vineyard because Larry loved his wine. He was an alcoholic and his drink of choice was wine. So putting him somewhere where he loved was their goal, so they chose a vineyard. Why the compassion now instead of when he was alive? Who knows? So with Elisa in custody and with her full confession, they are racing basically against time to get Sarah and get her to talk before the news actually breaks that they've gotten Elisa into custody. So on that very same night that they are able to arrest Elisa and get her confession, they are at Sarah's house at midnight asking to speak with her. They don't want her to run, so they want to make sure they have her cornered and they want to speak to her. And they tell her that Elisa has been arrested and they just want to clear some things up with her. So she comes down to the station again to be interviewed. And again, she's denying any involvement, any knowledge of anything that's happened, any knowledge of being in the vehicle when Larry's body was in the vehicle. She says she has nothing to do with whatever happened to Larry McNabney. Now, as she's saying that, the Florida police are literally faxing the typed confession from Elisa to the California police where Sarah is being questioned. And once they receive that documentation, Sarah Dutra is arrested on the spot. Elisa is immediately put on suicide watch after she was arrested, but even with that measure being taken, on Easter morning, 12 days after she was arrested in 2002, she used a pillowcase and committed suicide in her cell. She did write a letter to her attorney before she committed suicide saying, make sure you sue the county jail and to give all the proceeds from the lawsuit to her children. That is the last thing that she can do for them to give them a better life, to have something good, in her words, come out of this whole situation. She claimed that although she was on suicide watch, no one actually came and checked on her in her cell, or there were not sufficient checks on her in her cell for being on suicide watch. But they did an investigation, and according to their investigation, they did what they were supposed to do. So no money was won, children got nothing. Now, on the other hand, while Sarah Dutra never confessed, she was convicted of voluntary manslaughter and accomplice to murder, and she was sentenced to 11 years in prison. She was released on October 26th of 2011 after serving a little over 8 years. And that is the story of Elisa McNabney and Sarah Dutra. And you know, I always have to finish off the skincare routine tonight. It's a nighttime routine, so we're going with a nice, soft, light fragrance that still, you know, says something. And this week, my choice is one of my very favorites. It is the MFK a la Rose. And this is absolutely one of my favorite fragrances. I know everybody talks about the Baccarat Rouge from this fragrance house, but this is my favorite. Let me know if you guys have ever heard of this fragrance before, if you've tried it, your thoughts on it. I think it's such a light, beautiful, feminine fragrance, and I just love to wear it, especially in the warmer months, but I wear it inside. I work from home, so wear it inside all the time. But that is the story, you guys. I want to hear your thoughts on this story. Obviously, thoughts and prayers to the entire family and everybody that was affected by this case, everything that happened, but I want to hear your thoughts. Have you heard of this case before? And before I go, guys, I wanted to introduce you to a new sponsor, and that is Skillshare. I'm super excited about this being a sponsor. I've been looking for a way to better my knowledge on creating content for you guys, making it more engaging, making it more professional, and also some self-care things. You know, we're all about self-care, hence the skincare. So I wanted to find a way to enhance those skills and to increase my knowledge on those things, and Skillshare offers those options. I recently joined the platform and I was able to find a number of classes that really interested me, which is the Ultimate Self-Care Playbook with Jonathan Van Ness. And the other one that I found, which is really geared for you guys and for me to bring better content to you, that is the YouTube Success Script, Shoot, and Edit with MKBHD. So those are the two classes that I am going to start with, and I will let you guys know how those go. I'm really excited to broaden my understanding and my knowledge there, but it's a really awesome platform and it is a great online community. They have classes from photography to illustration, graphic design, and so much more, guys. New classes added each week. So make sure you can check them out, guys. And the first 1,000 people that use the link in my description box, you guys will get 1 month free of Skillshare. I think you guys will love it just as much as I do. But outside of that, you guys, I really wanted to quickly mention a couple of new products that I introduced this week in my nighttime routine that is new to you guys, not so new to me, but new to you guys. And the first one is the Belif True Cream Aqua Bomb. And this stuff I really love. It is very similar to the Tatcha water cream, but I must admit it is a little more hydrating and moisturizing, and I really love it. It still has that gel consistency, so it's not very heavy on the skin. It's great for combo and oily skin. The other product from the same brand is the Belif Aqua Bomb sleeping mask. This product is another one that I really love, and you're either gonna hate it or love it because of the consistency. It is a jelly consistency, and some people don't really like it. I love it. I feel like it's super soothing on the skin. It doesn't feel like a heavy overnight mask, and it gives you this beautiful glowy skin that my husband comments on every night. So I love these two. They are super moisturizing. My skin feels like silk in the morning when I wake up. So these have been doing wonders for my skin. They've really helped with texture as well. So make sure you check these guys out if you have not. If you have, I want to hear your thoughts on these as well. Other than that, you guys, it has been fun. It's been real. Until next time, love you guys. Bye.